We are live and it is podcast number 5. This is the Why Carbs Won't Make You Fat pod. It's January. Nick is back. So it's going to be a good one. We'll have a 3-way discussion. So with that in mind, how were our Christmases and New Year's, guys? How do we get on?
Very festive.
Great. Yeah, great time. Chilled.
Nice.
I always kind of think that Christmas, like the week between Christmas and New Year, is basically like how life should be.
Yeah.
It gives you that one glimpse, doesn't it, of going, oh, there's no work and like there's loads of food around and I can just do what I want. And you go, this is what life must be like. And then the week after, back at work. Oh no, back to normal.
Yeah. There's this. I heard on a podcast. There's this really good fable of this like fisherman. So the fisherman's like in some Spanish village or somewhere.
The Mexican fisherman.
Oh, is it Mexican fisherman? Yeah. Okay. Do you know? You tell it, Josh. Then you'll tell it better than me.
Yeah, it was from Chris Williamson's Modern Wisdom that I heard it on, and it was basically this American businessman is on holiday in Mexico. He meets a fishmonger, says that your fish is amazing, tells him all the way, what do you do with your day, basically. And so he says, I wake up, I have breakfast, I go fishing, catch what I can for the day, and then I go back, have some time with my family, and then go and play guitar at the bar with my amigos. And then the American businessman goes, what you want to do is how to basically grow this big business into a big conglomerate, and so you can get more fish, become one of the biggest fish distributors in the region or the country or around the world. And the Mexican fisherman keeps on asking, and then what happens? And then what happens? And the businessman tells him what will happen, basically ending up in the same place that he is already at, just with more money, and then more time has passed. I've paraphrased quite a lot of it just to...
Well, he's basically like, all right, so first you buy another boat and then you hire all these staff.
That's it, yeah.
And the guy's working harder and harder and harder. And he's like, well, what's the point in me doing all this work? He's like, well, so you can get to the end of the day and go play your guitar in the bar with your amigos. And he's like, okay, I'll do that anyway.
Yeah.
I always think a lot of fables include fishermen. Is that just me? It always seems to be around fishermen. I don't know.
Maybe.
Could be fishermen, farmers, all that sort of stuff.
Very wise, aren't they?
Very wise, yeah. Or just very chilled, like get up, work.
Yeah.
Work hard, put your feet up for the rest of the day. Could get on board with that.
I was going to ask you boys about Christmas. How do you boys approach Christmas in terms of like food and stuff? Because I know it's one of those questions that I'm always asked. Like when Christmas comes around, going, oh, how should I approach it and what should I do? And personally, I always just kind of say, I don't guide really anyone. I say to people at Christmas time, do what you feel is best. It's your life, you know. But for me personally, I sort of go into it with a Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day. I don't really give food much thought, like protein, any of that. Eat what I want for all those days. And then maybe like that week between Christmas and New Year, I kind of think I should probably stop eating pigs in blankets for breakfast and maybe go back to porridge and just, you know, try and get some sort of normality back. But I was wondering how you guys...
I think like for my clients, actually, like some of them get really worried, especially like one of my clients in particular, she's absolutely smashed it. She's so dialed. She has like 16 weeks in a row of just smashing it. She's not got hungry. She's just had consistent progress. She's getting stronger. She's like, oh, well, what about Christmas? This is all going to go off the rails. I was like, no. Like people would have gone off the rails long before you have, because that's just normal. So let's go and chill, relax, eat all of the foods that you want to eat and see it as practice for living. Is like, there is an amount of restriction with losing weight. You have to say no to a bunch of stuff. So let's just use this week to say yes to everything you want. Come back like fully charged. So the cravings are at bay and you've like literally in anything. Like one of my other clients, again, a bit nervous historically about diet breaks. But she's like, no, actually, there's literally nothing I have a craving for now, having had like, I think she had like nearly 3 weeks in the end, just circumstances. Again, that's fine. We're just like pushing pause. What I liked about your, like some of the posts you made, Nick, were actually quite good, because I tend like, I tended to have assumed that everybody would want to let rip, whereas actually you were like, no, just do what you feel you want to do, which is actually quite a nice. Because yeah, if you want to be a little bit more dialed in, then fine, do you.
I think the worst thing you can do is tell someone what to do.
Mm-hmm.
They go into Christmas and do what they think they should be doing.
Yeah.
And then they get to after Christmas and go, that was the most miserable Christmas I've ever had.
Yeah.
Spend January feeling completely kind of, I've just messed my Christmas up. I would have actually just preferred to spend time with my family and not think about it, which is why I think if you just say, just do what you want to do for those days.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. And you actually find, I think, Tim, you mentioned it there, you tend to find that once you're 2 packs of mince pies down, you don't want another mince pie.
No.
And you actually get towards the end of Christmas going, do you know what? I just want like a chicken sandwich. I just want, you want to go back to that normal kind of food. So it's like, there you go, do what you want, off you go. And it seems to,
yeah. I mean, I think we talked about in the first pod, but I almost go out of my way to include some sort of indulgence daily, which is my person. Not everyone needs to do this, but my personal history of food. And then people find me a bit odd that I have such moderation around like Christmas food and stuff.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it, but I literally, like, if a massive bowl of ice cream comes out, I'm like, yeah, I'll just have a couple of scoops.
Yeah.
And that's not because I'm being good or being like trying to set an example. I really don't. I just don't need any more than that because it's not a special food for me. I haven't put it on this shelf where I'm like, I can't have that.
It's not restricted, so it takes away the mystery or the
it just becomes like any other food.
Fruit thing, isn't it? It's that kind of thing. Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's like a bottle of ice cream is always going to be tastier than some broccoli, but
what about you, Josh? How do you approach it?
I try and make a point of thinking it's just one time of the year. It's not the whole year. So, because they, like you said, putting some foods on a pedestal, like ice cream, for example, but putting the whole Christmas, New Year's period on a pedestal of like this is the time of year that everything I've been working on goes out the window, and then I'm going to continue that pattern in the coming year. But it's like it's just one period of time. You're off work, spending time with people you care about, having nice time. So why not enjoy some tasty food? And that's generally the way I kind of look at it. And there's a few things. I've been saving a load of posts on Instagram of some recipes to try out over that time, and one of which was kind of a breakfast brunch thing, which is a Dutch baby, which is essentially the cross between a Yorkshire pudding and a pancake. So you get you can do a sweet one or a savory one. We did a savory one. And you get a cast iron skillet, put that in the oven, heat it up till it's scorching hot, and then you make the batter like a normal pancake batter of flour, eggs, milk, and then melt some butter, take the skillet out of the oven, put some butter in there, melt that down, and then adds the batter. And I put grated Parmesan, parsley, some chopped tarragon and dill, I think it was, and then put it in the oven for 15 minutes until it all rises, and then you just put whatever you want in it. You can we did smoked salmon and made a dill creme fraiche thing. But then the guy I followed, he's done sweet ones. He's made a pizza-like one. It's really versatile, inexpensive thing to make, and it's very tasty.
It looks so good on your Instagram. It looks insane.
Yeah, it sounds nice.
Right.
And then I'll
no, go on, Josh. No, go on.
Well, I can riff on food stuff for quite a bit, but I was with my girlfriends in London for New Year's, and we initially intended on doing like a beef chuck roast. It was just a big chunk of beef that you end up slow cooking, and it just pulls apart. But they didn't have any where we went, but I bought a brisket instead and slow cooked that for 4 or 5 hours or something like that. And there were several times I had to put my cutlery down and just have a moment because it was almost like a spiritual experience, the combination. How good the meat was, and then the fat as well had rendered really nicely, and it was just very unctuous. And Yeah. So enjoyed that a lot.
And
It makes me hungry now. That's the problem.
it's close to dinner time, which is why I was trying to move Josh on subtly. You'll see me disappear into the kitchen in a moment. Go find like if you're listening and you're a vegan, we love you.
Yeah.
I think we all love meat.
I'm sure you could do that with a cauliflower, or
I'm sure you could, and I'm sure it would be spectacular.
There was a vegetarian side as well, so that's all right.
Oh yeah, balance.
Got to get them vegetables in.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, like, little transition then into January. Loads of stuff you'll be seeing everywhere will be about New Year, New Me, and weight loss. But January diets don't necessarily have to be about weight loss. So Nick's got a great post on this on his Instagram. So first of all, Nick, let everyone know where they can find you on Instagram, and then maybe just run us through that post, or I can prompt you on what bits are in it if you need me to.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I get the old tag in straight away. So you can check me out at Metcalf_nutrition. I try and post weekly, just kind of like keep it ticking over, and then I tend to put some stuff on my stories about if I see stuff in supermarkets that people might like the look of, help them out. But I want to do this was before Christmas. I put a post out, and as Tim mentioned, when you get to January, it almost becomes a bit tunnel vision on weight loss. And that is because obviously it's what sells papers, it's what gets clicks on websites, and everyone wants to get involved in it and that kind of thing. But I think by focusing on weight loss, we're kind of doing a disservice to all the other things that can benefit us from actually just improving our diet. Improving your diet doesn't have to be solely to change your body shape or that kind of thing. If that's what you want, fair enough. If you don't want it, fair enough. There's other benefits of doing it. So I want to put a post out there that kind of just summarised a few of the things that can, come as a benefit from that. One of them, I think the first one I put in was you can improve your like skin, complexion, hair, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if you think about number of people that will happily go to, I don't know, show my boots or wherever for makeup and stuff like that. There's rows and rows of different creams and all this kind of stuff. And people will spend a good amount of money on all this stuff that promises them to, skin looking youthful, this kind of stuff. But how many of these people would actually just nail fruit and veg as part of their diet for a consistent amount of time, and actually at the end of that say, oh, do you know what? My hair's looking a bit more shiny. My nails are a bit stronger. I'm looking a bit more, I was going to say, not dead behind the eyes, but
vibrant.
That's the one, a bit more fresh. And I think that's, we don't see that in terms of when people are promoting fruit and veg and a more nutritious diet. That is one of the big benefits you're going to see. It is going to improve your skin and that kind of thing. So that's one of the benefits you can look at. Another one that comes from it is if you improve your diet. So if you're including fruits and veg and other sort of foods, if your fiber goes up, it will help you in the toilet department. So we all probably get to the point where over Christmas, digestion slows down a little bit because we're not moving. We're eating a lot of kind of beige buffets and all that kind of stuff. Myself personally, I know this happens. You go from being, sorry listeners, regular on a daily basis to sort of thinking, oh, I've missed that one today, and it's next day or whatever. But if you up your fiber and you're hitting your fruit and veg and that kind of thing, it just helps with a feeling of the bloating, painful stomachs. And I think that's one of the things you always hear. People whose diets aren't the best, one of the things I've heard is quite a common thing from a lot of people is digestion's bad. They've always got stomach pains. They've always got bloating and this kind of thing. And obviously, if that's an ongoing thing, you go and seek help. But one of the first steps you can do is really kind of how much fruit and veg are you getting?
Yeah.
What's the freshness of your food like, and how much roughage, I think they used to call it.
And if you go see if you have that problem and you go see your GP and they refer you to a dietitian, they're going to make you eat your fruit and veg.
Yeah. They'll just say,
They're not going to give you the probiotic straight away.
How's your fiber looking?
Yeah.
Oh, actually, because isn't it like I can't remember the numbers, but the average person, the fiber intake is shockingly low.
I think like so I think like the recommended amount is about 25 grams a day.
Yeah.
Now, that depends. So actually, if you're very active and you eat a ton of food, it's something more like 10 calories per 1,000 10 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories you eat, or something along those lines. I'll fact check that and put it in the notes maybe. But for your average, average listener, 25 grams. Now, most people are like down at 5 to 10. If they're not focusing on their 5 a day. So if you are down at 5 or 10, don't panic. Like maybe just get your fruit and veg up a little bit. Don't go from 5 to 25 in one day, because you might have one or two outcomes. Either things happen more regularly than you'd like, or they happen way less regularly than you like, and you can get a few IBS type symptoms. So don't go, don't, like anything, don't go from 0 to 100, but increase it gradually till you're up at towards that level. If you Google NHS fiber, the advice on that website is very sound. Just follow it. It's dead simple. They give you all different types of food you can try, and it's about variety.
Yeah.
It's not just about eating fruit, it's about eating different veg. I think you put seeds in there as well. Great source. Things like avocado, different types of whole grains as well.
It's even the little things, isn't it? Like if you're gonna everyone's got an air fryer nowadays. If you're gonna cook your own chips in an air fryer, just keep the skin on.
Yeah.
Or actually, this is a good tip for everyone who was listening. If you peel your potatoes, because say your partner doesn't want the skin left on, peel them with a speed peeler so you get the thin peel that comes off. Chuck those in your air fryer with a little bit of oil, salt, and some garlic powder or smoked paprika, and just air fry, for however long, and they just go really, really crispy. And beautiful. And
parsnips as well.
Parsnips, any root veg. We've got we don't have an air fryer, but I love to do that if we're doing a big roast and we've got a load of people over and they're waiting to eat. Just get them in the hot oven with it, like you say. Bring out some homemade crisps. People go mad for them. I put a lot of salt on them, so they're like, "You can't put. Aren't you a nutrition coach?" I was like, "Yeah, it's all right. It's just, it's not every day. It's fine."
So that's a good tip. The other one we were going to talk about was improved heart health. So if you just basically up your diet in terms of nutritious foods, so you're including lean proteins, again, fruit and veg, that kind of thing, a mixture of different nuts, berries, and that kind of thing. All these foods include a range of antioxidants, nutrients, including magnesium. So a lot of these things are going to work towards improving heart health, which is only a benefit. There's no downside to that, really, in my opinion. So that's one of the major ones we can look at. Another one we want to look at was basically it'll just improve your energy levels. So I know from sort of, we were just saying about over Christmas, if I do, go a bit mad on the beige buffet, or my mum loves to do a trifle, and I'll happily sit there and eat a load of that. But my energy just goes through the floor. Like I just have no energy. You get out the next day, and I think it's almost like you feel a little bit drunk. From all of the food.
A little bit hungover.
A little bit woozy, and then the thought of going for a walk doesn't seem quite so appealing. The thought of going to the gym just decreases massively. But again, if you just increase the nutritious side of your diet, you will notice a benefit in terms of feeling less groggy, feeling less lethargic on a daily basis. And all those things will just kind of tick into one another in the fact that you'll feel a bit more energized. So if someone says, "Do you want to go for a walk?" your first thought will hopefully not be, "Oh, I just feel knackered, I don't want to." It will be, "Oh, hopefully, actually, I feel up for this. This is good." And all these things will just start to kind of snowball into one another.
Yeah.
So I think, I think that was. I can't remember if that was all the points I put in the.
Pretty much, yeah. You talked about like nutrient intake, so you just get by having a variety of all that stuff in your diet, you're basically covering your bases, giving yourself all of the vitamins and minerals and other beneficial nutrients from your food, and saving yourself from having to rely on a multivitamin, which isn't the end of the world, but if you
can get it from real food, there's always a benefit. But I definitely think we do lose, that side of why it's beneficial to have a nutritious diet. We don't need to get so bogged down in terms of, you have to eat this because you want to be a size whatever by June and July.
Not just for
Marbella for the summer. So
because actually, as you said, you alluded to there about the thing about going for a walk. If you nourish yourself, then if weight loss is your goal, it will start to look after itself, because guess what? All those nourishing foods are really filling and lowering calorie.
Yeah, and that is the thing. It's almost like you can almost kind of camouflage what you're doing. So if your goal is weight loss, sweet, that's fine. But take the pressure off and camouflage that goal with, I'm doing this because I just want to feel more energized. Knowing that actually by having a more nutritious diet, the side effect will, or should, or could be, your weight management just becomes a bit more optimal. So without the pressure of sort of just focusing on that, it will just be a side effect of what you're doing, which just makes it that little bit more, I don't want to say easier, but like achievable and kind of manageable to focus on 100%. A bit more.
And if you were to, we'll come into this in a minute, so I want to talk about an awesome podcast I listened to, which is basically the next theme we're going to go into. But when you break down the goal like that into smaller chunks, it almost becomes hard to miss. Like everyone's probably got a piece of fruit that they could tolerate eating. Yeah. So I'm not even going to say the name of a fruit, because instantly like, oh, I don't like that one. Right. Eat a piece of fruit that you can tolerate eating before you have a biscuit. Nourish yourself first. And then it sounds so easy that it's not going to work, but it's about compounding the habit of good things. And then because you've had the fruit and you feel a bit more vitalized, then you go out for the walk. Then it starts this process. And then you go out for the walk and you feel more clear-headed. Work goes a bit easier because you've got head fog and you've got away from your desk for a bit. You're like, oh, you know what? I could go to the gym tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
And, it starts to compound that way. So,
and it's that thing of, you feel energized, you go for a walk, you realize actually it wasn't as bad as you thought it would be. And it gave you half an hour away from the house and, your noisy neighbors or something, or it's given you a chance to listen to an audiobook or whatever. And you come back from it and you think, that was actually quite nice.
Yeah, because you could easily be listening to this podcast on your walk.
You could. Good plug. I like that.
Or sharing it with your friends. The other point of that actually is weight loss is often the goal, but maybe it's not the actual goal. I go out on a limb and say literally everybody, because there's another reason behind wanting to lose body fat. It might be your health. It might be because you want to keep up with the kids when you're a bit older. It might be because you want to be more confident. And for me, those are probably the three biggest things that it will be. So then getting in touch with that, health, eat your fruit and veg, be more confident, turn up as your best self, give yourself some energy, nourish yourself. Just want to play with the kids, nourish yourself. It's like it's like being an athlete. Athletes eat their fruit and veg. Like they have a high food intake. Some of them eat junk food to keep their food intake up because they need to get the calories in. They still eat their fruit and veg.
There's two things I know from people may not know, but I'm expecting my first child next month, which is all very exciting. And I'm very aware that you were touching on there, I feel like I have a responsibility to make sure I have the energy for when little man wants to go to the park. he wants to race me across the park, I might be, touching 50 when he's old enough and fast enough, but I'm still going to beat him. I'm not going to. I'm not going to. I still want to be fit enough to make sure I beat him. But, I want the energy to be the parent that runs after him and chases him and kicks the ball and that kind of stuff. And I'm very aware as well that kids just take in like a sponge everything. And if they see me and mum in the kitchen, chopping fruit and veg, they'll grow up with that just being a normal thing. It's not they're what are they doing in the kitchen? That's just what we do. So that's something I like the thought of. And also what you were saying there about fruit and veg, some people might not like certain things, but I always find people can sort of hear about certain fruits and veg and they'll instantly say, I don't like that fruit or veg. I don't like, I don't like broccoli. Okay, broccoli's pretty boring half the time. How are you cooking it? I boil it for half an hour,
45 minutes.
It goes brown.
Right. And you're like, okay, that does sound pretty horrible, so I'll go with you there. Have you thought about boiling it for less? Have you tried tender stem broccoli instead of normal broccoli? Have you tried air frying it? Have you tried roasting it? Have you tried mixing it with garlic and soy sauce in a stir fry?
Butter.
Exactly. Don't just look at one way of cooking and completely write something off. Give it a go. I don't like carrot. Okay, have you tried grating it? Because sometimes I think actually carrot's quite nice when you grate it in a sandwich, or changing the texture is quite an important thing.
And like you might, I mean, I'm not a parent, but I see like we studied a bit of childhood nutrition. I think one of the big things kids are fussy is it's normally texture, and that probably carries through in adult life as well.
Definitely.
Right. So actually talking a little bit about goals, I saw this. I do love James Clear, so I'm just going to rip him off because I've screenshotted his quote today on his Instagram, which I think is fantastic. So I'll read it out verbatim. Look him up, James Clear, on Instagram. Buy his book. It's brilliant. New goals don't deliver new results. New lifestyles do. And a lifestyle is a process, not an outcome. For this reason, all of your energy should go into building better habits, not chasing better results.
He's a wise man.
He is a wise man. He's very good at writing. I think it would take me about 15 paragraphs to say that. So what he's saying there is, and this comes into the podcast I listen to. So I like to listen to the High Performance podcast with Jake Humphrey and Damian Hughes, I think his name is. But they have a bunch of, normally it's sports people, but various sort of sports people and high performing people. They got a guy called, I know nothing about CrossFit, but they got a guy on called Ben Berger on, who is, they tag him as the #1 CrossFit trainer. I don't know how true that is, but he's good at training.
Gone down a little bit.
Sorry?
He's gone down a little bit.
Gone down a little bit. Yeah, I think it's the other business ventures. But the one thing that impressed me quite a bit, and it's an easy gag, but he basically only mentions CrossFit about 3 times in an hour and 15-minute podcast, which if you've met most CrossFitters, that would probably be going.
It's unusual.
Yeah. But he starts off with a few bits that I think are really pertinent to goal setting. So one thing he says is, and if you look up the High Performance podcast on Instagram, it's the clip that they took from it. He's talking about doing the hard thing. And then you instantly go to, oh, right, well, how many bloody muscle ups is he going to tell me to do? I've got to go carry the boats or go for a 15-kilometer run. And he's like, no, that's not the hard thing. He's like, the hard thing is when the alarm goes off, you get out of bed, you don't hit snooze. That's the hard thing. And then in the context of what we've been talking about, eating the broccoli is the hard thing. The more you do those hard things, the closer you get to your goal. And then he talks about goals and he's like, right, what's your goal? So they say what it is. He's like, right, take that, put it on a shelf. We're not going to look at that for the rest of the year. They're like, what? He goes, right, the goal educates the process. So the goal might be fat loss, but we don't need to focus on that. We need to focus on eating your vegetables, going for a walk, going to the gym, controlling calories. All of those things, getting to bed on time, getting up on time, all of that stuff, pour your attention into doing the thing rather than waiting for the outcome. Because obviously, if you don't do any of the steps, you never get to the outcome. And it's kind of a little bit tough love, but it isn't, because it's very pragmatic and sort of undeniable. And he talks about these levels of mindset, and like there's like 1 to 5, and I think 4 is 3 is so there's like I don't remember what the first level is. Second level is like a pessimist. Third level is an optimist. Optimist is probably good. And he's like, well, yeah, the optimist is normally the first ones to die in a survival situation, because the pessimists normally win out. But he said then there's the realist, and he wants to get everyone to be the realist. So it's like, yeah, I'd love to go do that thing. I'm really eager to go and do it, but there's some bunch of stuff I need to get through and do the hard work. So he's trying to get everyone into that little mindset, which I think is a great concept. And then he talks about actually the goal's going to go wrong, like New Year's resolution, you're going to fall off the wagon, and not to quit at that point. Almost expect that to happen. And he talks about, again, a little bit of psychology, but he says there's 2 people on your shoulder. There's the coach and the critic. And in most of us, the critic is the loudest one. The critic is like, you just can't help yourself, can you? You go and did that again. And he said the critic is normally louder. You need to give yourself space to listen to the coach, who would be there the next day going, well, didn't go to plan. Okay, let's adjust the plan. What do we do next? And almost talking more kindly to yourself when the goal doesn't go as you intended. The final thing he talks about, which is so powerful, that probably comes before making a change, and I see this in so many people that I have worked with, people that have tried to get some help from me, is if you are insanely busy, you ain't going to be able to do any of this stuff. You've got to have some time in your schedule for you. And if you can't make that time in your schedule for you, that's fine. But there's literally no point in trying until you can clear the time to get into the gym for 15 minutes, or to prepare your fruit and vegetables and all that stuff that is the hardest stuff to do. And I think he talks about Eisenhower, and he's got like this little matrix of important versus urgent. And they use example in the thing of like, urgent is email, important is getting the kids to school on time. Because it's both have a time bound thing. Oh, you must reply to this email today. But in the bigger picture of things, the kids have got to go to school, right? It's not, and that's where he sort of frames it. So listen to the podcast. It's really good. I found it like really motivating. He talks like a bunch about like, getting people through CrossFit competitions and things, that I found quite interesting as a sportsman and stuff, but it's so broad ranging. It's brilliant. And I guess that clarity of finding a purpose behind your goal is how you breed discipline. Because if it is just to see a number drop on the scale, so what? No one cares, including yourself, that you've lost 5 kilos, right? But you will care if that 5 kilos means you're running around after your kids, you're beating them in the school sports day, if you're like me and Nick. All of that stuff has a more, to coin a phrase from the High Performance podcast, they talk about infinite purpose. And I guess like for me, probably if I were ever lucky enough to become a parent, that's got to be the ultimate infinite purpose. You've got that person to look after and develop for the rest of their life.
Yes.
I think that there's a few things in there, isn't there, to pick out. But one of the things I just wanted to touch on, because you mentioned it there, like it's not all about parenting, but it's something that's sort of on my mind at the moment in terms of
course, yeah.
Where I am. And I think with new parents, it's quite a crazy thing to raise a small child and this kind of thing.
I can imagine, yeah.
And then, as you said, if it's that busy and you haven't got the time, you're wondering where you can get the time. I'm not in that position yet, so I can't comment on it, but I assume will be. But I always have this thing in my mind of, they always say about, you being the best version of yourself is what's best for your family. And it's the whole, when the plane's going down,
Yeah.
you have to put your mask on first before you can help other people. And if you're always kind of shoving your health and your wellness and everything to the back of the queue because you want to be helping other people, that's very noble.
Mm-hmm.
But you're ultimately going to burn out at some point.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're not going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's hard to find time, and I know it's hard, you know, it is challenging and that kind of thing, but just small steps, like you said, to help with your health will be more beneficial in the long run for your family.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I was going to say about in that was at the start, you were saying about how you don't focus on the weight loss, you look at the process and this kind of thing. And I guess that's all about stripping a bigger goal down into smaller parts, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
Yeah.
Because I think there was someone on Diary of a CEO who was talking about this, and they were saying how with any problem in life, if you're counseling someone, you keep breaking the problem down to the point where it's almost non-existent.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can't think of the example they used, but this is X is the problem. Okay, what's the level down from there? Why can't you do that? Why can't you do this? And you just keep drilling down, and it's almost like you drill down to the point where you think it's getting stupid.
Yeah.
But if that's where you have to drill down to find the level of where you can start, that's where you start. You know, you find that point. And I think that's quite a good one, because people do get quite overwhelmed with the big goal.
Yeah.
If you are feeling overwhelmed, as many people will be in January, how can you split that down? So like you just said, can you prep a lunch the day before?
Yeah.
Can you, something I do, can you weigh out your porridge oats the night before? So when you come down in the morning, all you've got to do is put milk on it and put it in the microwave.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah, you know, I mean, something I used to do is I'd make my lunch the night before, and so I didn't forget it. I'd put my car keys in my lunch bag in the fridge. Sounds stupid, but just there's like then literally no way I can forget my lunch.
Yeah,
unless I want to walk to work.
There was someone on if you like motivational chat in the morning, listen to Virgin Radio, Chris Evans. Like he is
Chris Evans is brilliant.
Oh mate, the absolute don of like getting you fired up in the morning.
Yeah, he's really good.
Positive chat. And he had her name is Ella, but she's from Deliciously Ella. She does
Oh right, yeah.
And one of her things is cook once, eat twice.
Yeah.
So you basically, if you're using your oven or you're on the stove or whatever, double the ingredients. You know, chances are if you double the ingredients, your price per kilo of chicken or pork or whatever is cheaper because you're buying it in bulk.
Your electric price is halved because you're only cooking
once.
Yeah.
And then the next day you come in from work and you've got dinner in the fridge ready to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's finding those small steps, isn't it, to make the bigger problem.
Yeah, and like something that springs to mind is like one of my best friend. He's got two young boys, youngish, like 8 and 5 maybe ish. Busy lifestyles. His wife works shifts. Got a very high powered job. They have the slow cooker on the go all the time. He's literally just like, right, pack of mince in there, doesn't even brown it off because you don't need to, because it's going to cook anyway. Chuck the ingredients in, bang. Okay, right, kids are home at this time. Every time I go and see him, he's like, right, the kids are home at this time. We've got an hour for a pint and then we're back. And then dinner's ready. Like, but it sounds stupid, but it's just like, you've got to get organized. Like, if you want to, and being organizing up front buys you time later on. It's like, in finance, investing is buying yourself future freedom, or saving money is future freedom. It means you can quit your job earlier. It means you can take more risks because you've got money in the bank. Same thing, right? But it's harder in the moment. It's harder.
No, it is. And we try and do a thing here where like, so we plan out our meals for the week.
Yeah.
And then from that, you write your shopping list and that kind of thing. And okay, it takes 15 minutes while we're sat watching, we're working through 24 at the moment. So we sit there while we're watching 24.
Yeah.
And we just decide what we want to eat for the next week and then we write it down. But that 15 minutes makes shopping 15 minutes less.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Instead of walking around the supermarket going, what the hell am I going to eat today? And you're just wandering around the supermarket, I go, I need this, this, and this. Off you go, job done.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we found, what is challenging is trying to decide what you're going to eat for the week, because everyone gets in the same thing where you go, oh, should we just have fajitas again, or should we have enchiladas?
Yeah.
Or you have the same kind of like 4 things or 5 things that you just roll over. So what we did was we had a little glass jar in the living room, and every time we had a recipe that we liked, we write it on a little piece of paper, scrunch it up, put it in the jar.
That's
to the
amazing.
point now where we've got a jar full of like all these recipes that we like. So then when we go, I have no idea what we're going to eat this week, get the jar out, and we have a rule that whatever comes out of the jar, you have to have it. There's none of this, oh, I don't like that, but I'm going to have something else.
Nice.
Whatever comes out the jar, and it makes it so much easier because you go, oh, sausage and mash. Yeah, I love that. Done.
Yeah.
So that's a little handy tip. You can clip that one. That's
clip that. That is going. Yeah, I'm all over that. I'm already editing it together. Right. On that note, I reckon I'm going to put you on the spot, Josh.
All right.
What recipes going? Nice, quick, simple, easy recipes going in that. If our listeners have got the jar open, give us a recipe or 2 to go in it.
So there's a butter chicken, which is really easy to make. So you'll need about 500 grams of like mixed colored cherry tomatoes, so reds and yellows and greens and that, and 3 chilies de-seeded and chopped up. You chuck those into the pan with cooking them dry, and you're just wilting those down until they get a bit jammy. Then you take them out. Diced up chicken breast, 2 to 3 tablespoons of Greek yogurt. And then about 2 teaspoons worth of garam masala, grated ginger, grated garlic. Chuck that in the pan after you've taken the chilies and tomatoes out. Put those to the side. Brown off the chicken a bit, and then you take that out. Put the chilies and tomatoes back in. Then you add some peanut butter. Yeah, tablespoon of that to thicken things up, and then you gradually add in 250 mils of water. And then you're just kind of picking all the pieces off the side of the pan that have gone a bit gnarly. Add the chicken back in again, and then you add some more yogurt, bit more water, and a few more teaspoons of garam masala, and then serve it with rice, fresh chopped coriander. But I know coriander is a controversial herb.
I love it. Some people, yeah.
And if you have them, some crushed toasted cashews.
Nice. I give you a little extra. So there's a really good recipe for something similar on the BBC Good Food website, but it's not as good as your one because yours has got like fresh tomatoes and stuff in it. But we pimped up from having toasted peanuts. So we quite often buy our meat from the butcher just because I prefer to do it that way for very many reasons I won't get into unless we go too political. But it's just better quality, cheaper. We often get the chicken thighs and they come skin on. And getting the skin off chicken thigh is really easy. You just grab it, rip it off. When we've got the oven on, lay all the chicken skins out on a baking tray, nice high heat, put them in there, chicken crackling.
Nice. Yeah.
Break that on top of your peanut butter chicken. And the texture is next level. Really good. It's peanut crackling.
I'll give that a go.
But I think you could probably do it with supermarket chicken, but they put so much water in any supermarket meat. The crackling doesn't really work because then it just steams rather than. You probably know the science a bit better than me, Josh, but that water doesn't do crackling very much good.
Flavors, no.
Yeah.
I find texture such a massive thing with eating. I'm such a textural person. We were going for a walk yesterday lunchtime, and Harriet, my wife, bought a prawn sandwich from Tesco. And there's the whole thing of a prawn sandwich is like soft prawn on soft bread. And I go, to me, that doesn't work. I need
to put crisp iceberg in it,
put some crisp in there or something. Yeah, just to put some crunch.
Prawn cocktail crisps.
And she's like, no, it's fine. I was like, no, I can't eat not a soft sandwich. There needs to be texture. That's what. Random point there.
No, I like that.
I just wanted to what you were saying, Nick, earlier. I remembered what you were saying about the initial goal or the work towards the goal being overwhelming. And I know Jordan Peterson's talk about that on numerous podcasts that he's appeared on, and I've got 12 Rules for Life on my shelf, and like one of the chapter titles, it was for Rule 2, sorry. Treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they're not going to summarize the entire chapter in one go, but I thought that as a heading for anyone if they're looking to make any kind of changes.
Yeah.
And then there was a slightly more cornier one. I think it may have even been The Rock or something, but he said, "Is it one day or day one? As in, are you going to do one day or are you going to do it today?" And just like you're saying, just break off a small bit, something that you can adhere to easily, and then gradually add to that, and then pick up on those small wins as you go along.
Yeah.
And don't beat yourself up about it if you maybe miss one day.
Yeah.
I think it was when I said about breaking stuff down, I think it was Jordan Peterson who did the podcast with it was. I tend to find when Jordan Peterson goes on a podcast, he tends to go on a bit of a ramble at times. You've got to kind of listen out for the bits that you need. But yeah, it's quite an interesting character.
Sounds like my style, actually.
Yeah.
It's like, where did we start? It was 15 minutes ago, but yeah.
Yeah.
But
no, they're good points. I like those. I like quotes like that. Makes you think. I think there was one I saw, and it was people get concerned about making a change because it's hard, but you've almost got to choose your hard, because if you stay where you are, that will also be hard.
Yeah.
So which hard are you choosing? The hard to stay where you are and live how you are. Well, whatever that may entail. There's not just about weight loss or whatever. This is about anything.
Yeah.
Or do you choose the path to change that will also be hard? That's the choice you have to make.
Yeah, I was having a chat with someone on a similar sort of subject the other day, and they were talking about, I think, it was anxiety and what sort of things make them anxious. And in my head, I was trying to, and what I said is, what tools can you use, or maybe consider manufacturing some mental tools that you can use that can better serve you in handling these things, because what you're doing what you're using at the moment isn't serving you that well. And that kind of, like when we were talking about books, and even like on the first podcast of Ryan Holiday's book, the Stoicism stuff, Obstacle is the Way, and the Daily Stoic, and all those sorts of things, you've got little fantastic tidbits from some amazing minds who were in some lofty situations that are quite hard for a lot of people to get their head around, but they're still experiencing the same sort of things as the person on the street. So taking bits, shiny things from there and trying to apply it not just to your nutrition but to your everyday life, hugely beneficial. Like one of the things I've tried to action for myself is generally changing my disposition about things, because there are sometimes I have a tendency of being incredibly cynical, and can at times be adverse to change. And so if my old way of thinking, it was like, what are all the negative possibilities that could happen if I do decide to go with this change? And I'd manifest all of that in my head, and it would give me a reason, probably an irrational reason, to say no, because it would just shut me off from an experience entirely. Whereas if I change my disposition, free it up a little bit, and then just say yes to whatever it is, and then ride it out and see how it goes.
And actually, that is a good summary of the coach and the critic analogy.
Right.
It's the critic telling you not to do all those things, and it's fucking easy to be a critic. So easy, you can't miss. Like think about, like, if you ever watch a football game on the TV and you can hear what the crowd are saying. Mate, you're fucking shit, you fat whatever. Like, he's an elite pro sportsman in the Premier League, and some middle-aged bloke who's plays six-a-side with his mates is telling him, like, literally, that's the epitome of the critic.
Yeah.
That guy misses a penalty in, like, let's say it's an England player, misses a penalty in the World Cup finals. What does Gareth Southgate say to him? He's not telling him his shit. He's like got his arm around his shoulder, like, and talk to yourself like that more often. But the thing he mentioned, I just remembered how he sort of then says how you deal with that critic is to almost sit back, because you've got to like rationalize it a little bit and go, well, is that, I don't know the exact words he uses, but like, is that a fair reflection of this situation? Like, someone cuts you up in traffic, you're an idiot. Like, that's the critic firing, like, red, angry. But is it helping anything? Can I do anything about that? Is it going to make anyone's day better if we get involved in this thing? Or is it like, well, that's happened, not great, where do we move on? You know, what's the way forward rather than the way of staying where we are?
That kind of links into, I was listening to the podcast that you boys were doing before Christmas, and I think you touched on the book Chimp Paradox.
Yes. Yeah. It's very similar.
It's a very similar thing, isn't it? You know, it's the monkey who's going berserk.
Yeah.
But it's the monkey that gets all the attention, because the other side, you know, the more logical one, you don't listen to that because it's slightly boring, you know.
Yeah.
But that's how things are, you know. You tend to listen to the monkey more. So yeah, I thought it's quite linked in with that.
Often, if we're very stressed, very anxious, very overwhelmed, we're listening too much to the chimp or the critic, and we're listening not enough to the rational side or the coach. Like,
yeah,
I wonder if that this may be sort of a thing for another day. But like, there was someone I was listening to, and they were talking about social media, and it links into how people much rather hear negative news. So negative news gets more attention, as we well know from Daily Mail,
100%.
whatever.
Yeah.
And they did an experiment where they posted 2 posts from the same account. I don't know how they did it. I can't remember the details of it, but one was with a positive headline, and the other one had a negative headline. And it wasn't just in terms of how people reacted. The algorithm itself pushed the negative to more people from the off. And I think sometimes that kind of comes back into why we're now seeing the nutrition space on social media, and we won't get into all that again, taking a bit of a kind of, it's all very confrontational and divided opinions.
And sensational.
Sensational. Kind of because it sells.
Yeah.
There was a pod I was listening to the other day, Heretics, which is Andrew Gold's channel, and he has quite a lot of people that are either in political space, or there are some philosophers. He's had Peter Boghossian on there and some psychologists as well. And the psychologist one I was listening to is a guy called Richard Grannon, who's a Scouser, and he was. They talked about that exact subject. So it was the more clickbaity titles when you say, like, Ben Shapiro destroys leftist at a college campus, that's going to get millions of clicks and millions of views. Whereas what they were having, which was an interesting discussion about a variety of different topics about various social things happening around the world, it might get a few thousand, 100,000 views or something like that, but it won't be anywhere near as successful as that more clickbaity thing. And the same with the nutrition stuff. You got guys like Gary Brecker and Tim Spector, and a huge list of people.
They're not. Other idiots are available.
But it's kind of how that's kind of how James Smith.
He does, He's quite smart with it, but
he started his career by calling out Joe Wicks. Got and fair play to him. He used it for his benefit, and he is where he is.
But he understands advertising, he understands how that space works, and like a lot of the stuff he says is accurate as well. But he's very good at getting that first hook in to hook you into it. Just anecdotally, one of my highest performing Instagram reels, I misspeak in it and make a very basic error. It went fucking wild.
Really?
And not because people are like, oh, that's wrong or whatever. It's just I don't know whether that is just a coincidence, but I think I meant to say like eat protein like 3 times across the day or something. And I said once because I just misspoke. And people love the reel. Like I don't know. Maybe I'm being cynical, Josh. But
perhaps we need to do it on this podcast every session. Just say something wrong.
Yeah,
we should. We should then like caveat either side. Be really clear, and then just clip the bit where wrong.
Yeah.
Right. That feels like a good place to close it off for this week, but we're going to close it off with, I'll get back to this. I think it's quite a nice way to finish out the pod. Just each of us have a take-home point from the podcast. So, Nick, you got one, or do you want to get time to think?
I'm gonna have time to think. You
Go
both
on,
carry
Josh. If not, I'll go.
No, I mainly because we riffed on it for a little bit longer and things like that. It was more the goal being overwhelming and just taking off small chunks. There was a part that we didn't talk about it, but it just reminded me of something that was talked about on my PT course with the PSCA, which was the zone of like optimal development. So you kind of got rings of a circle. So you got one big one, a medium-sized one, and then a small one. And like how far where the person positions themselves in the circle is like too far out, too close to the thing, finding that sweet spot in the middle. And that was as we were kind of talking about program designing for strength and hypertrophy, but the same thing can be also applied to people's nutrition. So it's like when you give someone advice, like if you give a friend advice who's having a hard time, it's got to be timed perfectly right. Otherwise, it would just be in one ear, out the other.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say that's probably the take home thing for me.
Perfect. I love that sentiment of treating yourself like you would treat something you're looking after. Yeah. So many people will go find, like we're one of them as well, I do believe in it, but like go find their dog a really good, high quality raw food diet, best ingredients for that animal, not feed them stuff you know is going to make them sick or lethargic or make their coat less shiny. Imagine like just feeding your kid what you would eat when you were hungover. Imagine telling your kid they can't go outside to play and exercise. Like, treat yourself like that person, put on the oxygen mask first, because if you and actually one of the bits from the Ben Bergeron podcast, he talks about his goal for life of being an asset to his family when he's 90. Which I was like, oh, that's my goal as well. I get that because people think live hard, die young. You don't die young anymore.
No.
You live hard and then you live in pain or medication until you die old. So if you can think forwards into the future, and I don't mean to be somber and macabre with that, but if you can look forward into the future, think about all the things that an elderly person would do differently, like they need to start earlier rather than later.
Yeah. That's a good point. I think mine would be what you were talking about, doing the hard things. So I always think that's an important one. You know, doing the hard things on a daily basis has numerous benefits. You know, getting up early or just getting up when your alarm goes off is almost like you're keeping that first promise to yourself in the day. Yep. So, you know, you told yourself the night before, I'm going to set my alarm. When this alarm goes off, I'm going to get up at this time. If you then get to the next morning and the alarm goes off and you smash the snooze button 10 times and you're getting up half an hour late and therefore you're late going to work, and then it all starts that thing of, why can't I have just got up at this time, blah, blah. If you just get up when that alarm goes off, you've kept that promise that you made yourself. You are, it sounds a bit cheesy, but you are the person that you want to be.
Yeah,
you want to be the person that gets up and has time to have breakfast and leave the house on time without rushing. So it's doing that kind of stuff. And if anyone wants a tip on getting up when your alarm goes off, and this is, you can apply this to lots of other things as well. There's someone called Mel Robbins who she's amazing. I listen to a lot of her stuff. But one of the things that she taught me is when you're there in the morning, if you're doubting getting up or you don't want to get up, in your head, 3, 2, 1, and just count down. And on 1, you don't think about it.
Yeah,
just stand up out of bed, because the minute you're out, that's it. You're up and you're off on your way.
Yeah.
But you just need that kind of don't think about it, just go.
Yeah, I've heard that as like 3, 2, 1, feet on the floor. Yeah, same. Yeah.
But you can apply that to loads of other stuff as well. You're nervous about a job interview. Before you go into the room, in your head, 3, 2, 1, through the door.
Yeah,
and just switch on, go. So that's a good tip.
Love that.
If anyone wants
there was a breath thing I heard that Andrew Huberman talked about, and then someone else talked about on a podcast. But you know how when kids, if they hurt themselves, they do that little sniff, and then they breathe out. I can't remember the name of the breath they call it, but doing that kind of relaxes you a little bit. You just do it, and then you can go on after that. So 3, 2, 1, get out of bed, that little breath thing, and then you're on your way.
Love it. Right. Well, let's wrap up there. Josh, where can people find you on Instagram?
Instagram, Josh Weibout 90. So Josh Wibaut 90.
And Nick?
You can find me at Metcalf_nutrition. That's Metcalf without an E at the end, because everyone spells Metcalf with an E at the end.
Including me, which I've corrected.
Yeah, including you. Metcalf_nutrition. And on a shameless plea to the masses, if we get one, I'm on 590 followers. I just want 10 people, just because I want to get to 600.
Let's go. Let's get Nick to that 600.
If anyone can help me get there, feel free to give me a follow.
Guys, we want Nick's child, the first thing that he sees, his dad to be on 600 followers.
On the 600 club, yeah.
And if he's not, you're all culpable if you're listening to this. So go follow Nick. There's the guilt trip of the week. Right. You can find me at Food Flexibility on Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well. If you want to watch the podcast, you can actually watch it on YouTube. It's on my Food Flexibility channel, but I'm sure if you Google Why Carbs Won't Make You Fat podcast, you'll find it on there. We will cut it there for this week. Thank you so much for listening. The following is growing. So if you like it, share it with some friends. That's how the word goes. We ain't going to do any advertising. It's just all going to be word of mouth and grind. So if you're enjoying it, please share it with people on your social channels. Just email it to them, send them a WhatsApp with a link to the podcast. If you want to leave us a review, please do that as well. That helps it all grow as well. And until next time, thanks for listening. And remember, carbs won't make you fat.